everyone, my name is Salia and welcome to HustleSZN. Today is my first video in my new place, so that's super exciting. Before I get started, I'm actually going to do a really quick unboxing. So, not that I'm a sponsor or like get shit for free, but I bought this month's OwlCrate because it had, so if you're a fan of OwlCrate or follow them, you know that they've started this collection of mugs that are Harry Potter themed. And I have one of them here. So they have two out so far. The very first one that they had out was for the second book. This one is for book 3. It's really pretty. That's the night bus. The Patronus thing. I'm kind of a sucker for like trying to collect things, so they got me at that. So let's do a really quick unboxing, just because I feel like that's such a typical booktuber thing to do, and I've never actually done one that I've published. I have my trauma scissors, which I think are unnecessary, but the other typical thing that all people do in unboxing videos is like, I already forgot what this month's theme is gonna be. So I'm gonna pretend like I already forgot this month's theme, and it's gonna be a big surprise for me. This is the card that you get. So the theme is tournaments and trials, and there's a bunch of bees, and I don't know why. It kind of looks like Thumbelina. Maybe it's Thumbelina. I don't actually know what that's supposed to be. So let's do the most exciting thing first. Dun, dun, dun. The mug. It's really cute. It's really cute. Okay, so it is all the trials from the Triwizard tournament. So hold on. So that's trial numero uno. And then, I don't know, is that water? That's probably trial number 2. And then the maze for the depressing third trial. Oh my god, that's actually really cool. Actually, I think I like this one more than this one. Number 3 is my favorite book for the characters, but oh my god, I really like this one. I also like the more like greens and teals on this one as opposed to like more purpley on this one. Oh, this is really nice. This one, I really like this. I know a lot of people, I feel like when I watch unboxing videos, a lot of people just say, oh my god, it's great, and you're like, do I believe them or not? But I actually am obsessed with this. Then, oh wow. Okay, then there is, let me hide my face. A pack of cards, which I thought was 6 of Crows, but it's not. The back says the S in Talk, which is, I think, the game that happens in the second A Darker Shade of Magic book by V.E. Schwab. Yo, I don't know if you can see the bling on that or the shine, but they're like gold foil and red. Whoa, these are really fancy and pretty. The like numbers are meh, like they're normal, but then the Jack, King, and Queen are like the characters. Isn't that cool? That's pretty cool. Let me see if the other, I'm guessing the other Jack, Kings, and Queens are other characters. Okay, yeah. And then the number colors are like V.E. Schwab's aesthetic, so white, red, gray, and black. Okay, so this is like the main guy. This is Kel. That's Kel. This is Lila, I think. Okay, I'm just gonna stop guessing and show you 3 at a time, and you guys can figure out who's who. Yeah, my guess is that it's divided based on like what London you're from. So like the people from White London would be together. The net, oh, this is cool. This is a lanyard. How do I? With cactuses on it, and it says bravery hides in amazing places. I don't know what it's for. It's cool because I wear a lanyard at work. I'm technically not allowed to wear this type because you need like the unclippable ones, but you never know, I might be able to get away with it some days. Then we have, oh, legit though, this is actually a pretty good box. In general, I don't buy OwlCrate because I find it's not worth it when you have to pay for the shipping. Like if you don't pay for shipping and you live in the States, that's great. But when you have to pay for shipping, it's like usually an extra 20 American. And then when you convert that, it just ends up being like a lot. I think in Canadian, it's at least like 50 bucks is what it ends up being, which is like, it's not insignificant, especially if like you don't like the book, right? Or if you don't like the items, then you might as well have just bought the book yourself and saved your other 20 bucks. I think this is a good box. I think it's kind of luck of the draw. Like I had a subscription I did one 6-month subscription at one point because it was on sale for Boxing Day. I just found that overall, I liked the idea of getting a box in the mail, but I didn't always think it was worth how much I was paying for, especially because it was so dependent on whether or not you liked those items. And it's just really hard to always like all the items they pick. I think it was just the initial want to have fandom stuff. And then once I had a handful of them, I was like, well, I'm never even actually going to use any of these. Most of it I wanted just to decorate my bookshelves. I think I just bought into the hype at that point, but I stopped now. But I want to say I do think that this box so far is like great. So I actually still use the other one of this that I got from OwlCrate, which is just like a pouch with red dragons on it, which I would get, but I just don't want to get up right now. But this one is based off the Hunger Games. So there's the arrows. My hands are not big enough for this. Anyways, your girl Katniss is amazing with the bow and arrow. And then on the other side, it says, "May the odds be ever in your favor," which is like probably the most iconic line ever. I feel like everybody knows that line regardless of whether you read YA or not. I actually really like this one. We'll definitely be using that. Then we have a pin, but it's just a pin with scissors, and then there's like a sun and moon and a ribbon. So we'll go look up what that means when we're done. So we gotta figure out what these two mean. Then we have this bag. Oh shit. What the? Oh shit, yeah, okay, okay, this is, again, some people might not like this, but I'm obsessed with puzzles. So the last item's a puzzle, even though there's no, oh, I see. I think you get a puzzle and then this is what the puzzle is that you're making. That's a little less fun, I'm not gonna lie, but whatever. I'm still excited. And then it's from the Night Circus and just says, "People see what they wish to see." I like the quote, even though I'm not really a fan of the book. It's like cute. It's a nice winter vibe. When I went on my LA trip with Zoe, I actually bought a Sailor Moon puzzle to bring with me to work on at home when I was in the Airbnb. So maybe what I'll do is I'll save this puzzle for when I'm on a trip and I can take it with me. Oops. All right, and now the big reveal. If you did not know, is Spin the Dawn. Oh, maybe the pin is about this. Oh, I see. I think the pin is about the book. Oh, whoa. Okay, so, oh, that's pretty cool. So I don't know too much about Spin the Dawn. I just know that it is some sort of Mulan retelling, but that it also incorporates seamstressry. I don't know, like being a seamstress. I feel like it's a seamstress. I personally don't want to know more about it, but it's Asian inspired, so I'm gonna say it's Mulan / Rumpelstiltskin, but I'm sure it's more intricate than that. And the author is from San Francisco, went to Harvard and Juilliard. Holy shit. Okay, cool. Let's go to part 2 where I can actually talk to you a bit about the reading rush and what I read this week. For the most part, people who watch my videos know what the reading rush is, but for some of my friends who don't, it's basically the biggest readathon that happens on YouTube. It crosses different platforms too, so there'll be Insta challenges, there's reading sprints on Twitter, there's video challenges, people do vlogs for it. It's this cool week where everybody prioritizes reading and there's a lot of socializing that goes along too, and there's challenges for the books to read. So, as always, I have been hella busy. I wasn't able to participate in it 100%, but I'm starting to realize that because of my job, I'm never gonna have as much free time usually as most people. I gotta make compromises if I want to still be able to do the things that I love on top of work, because if I expect to do everything 100%, it just it's not gonna happen. So for this week, knew that I would not be able to do many of the challenges. It was just like one of those weeks. I was on call for 3 days. So Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday I was on call. The thing about it is like post-call you get a day off, but depending on how much sleep you're actually able to get on call, sometimes you literally spend that whole day sleeping, which happened to me for the Saturday. So I like didn't even have a weekend. But I guess my compromise for all this was that I wanted to participate by just trying to prioritize reading at least for this week. And my goal for myself was to read about an hour a day. So I'm really happy with what I got done. Unfortunately, by putting reading first, I wasn't really able to exercise that much this week or go to the gym, but I only read one book during the reading rush. However, I finished a book just before that, so I'll do a quick wrap up of that book as well. So that'll give us 2. So the first book that I read before the reading rush was An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. I was gonna say John Green, I was gonna say it, but no, by Hank Green. So I guess the first thing that I had expected going into it was that I knew that it dealt with topics of being YouTube famous, because a lot of booktubers who talked about the book talked about how relatable it was to see a protagonist who kind of shoots to fame, and how some of the nuances that were portrayed in this like shot to fame trajectory could only be written by somebody who sort of knew what a small amount of fame felt like. So that was my only expectation going into the book, that it somehow explores fame and like the different levels of fame and the impact that fame can have on a person. Why am I so out of breath? So like there's this girl, she's a design student, she's walking home one day in New York and she sees this statue and she's like, oh my god, it's so like pretty from a design point of view, let me make a video about it. So she calls up her friend, they make a video, and then her video goes viral because it turns out these statues are kind of important and they've like popped up all over the world. And so then the book kind of follows 2 parallel storylines. Not really, like it's one storyline, but there's 2 threads to it, I guess. One is the sci-fi mystery of what the hell are these statues, where did they come from, like what are they made of, what is their purpose, and that part's all kind of sciencey. That part was my favorite part of the book, to be honest. So then the next thread, and I just think it's so fitting that I'm talking about threads after unboxing a book about spinning threads. Anyways, so the second thread is kind of the whole like this girl shoots to fame and she's suddenly this like huge celebrity, but you know, fame can only last so long, and as soon as she gets a taste of it, she like can't let go and just wants more and more and more and more. I'm not gonna lie, going into it, having heard what I heard booktubers say about this book, I was really expecting like this nuanced look at fame and its effect on people, and how maybe like YouTube fame in particular would be a bit different than others, and the good that comes out of it and the bad that comes out of it. And it's not that this book didn't explore these things, it's that it like makes note of them. It kind of notices that these are facts. Beyond that, there's not much of a discourse on fame and on like what it means as a whole and how social media has affected that. There's so much to explore in the world of social media and fame, and how our lives are shaped by that, and how we as consumers consume information, and how that impacts the image of a certain person, and like how PR does what they do. Like there were so many parts to it that I thought could be fascinating. And really the thing that I found they chose to focus on most was the corruption that happens when you become famous or popular. That was not what I was expecting going into this book, and I honestly, like, of all the different nuanced topics you could talk about when it comes to social media, distribution of like mass information to people, and like people who suddenly rise to fame, and how, you know, fame doesn't necessarily correlate to how much a person, like how knowledgeable a person is about a certain topic, and even just discussing like different ways that somebody can be credible. Like there was just so many topics that he could have explored, and then we focused on this, how power kind of corrupts the individual. It's a topic that's, in my opinion, very overdone, and that one that like we've all seen and heard. And there are so many movies and so many like TV shows that all kind of deal with this. Like literally every Disney Channel TV show has that one episode where like one of the friend members gets really popular and forgets about the other friends. Their ego gets too big and then they kind of fall back down and remember who their true friends are. And there's a gazillion movies about this as well. Love Don't Cost a Thing was one of them. Andrew was saying like even Mean Girls, which is like everybody's seen Mean Girls. So I guess I thought reading this book I would learn something about fame and how big YouTubers feel or experience the world that might be different than average people. And I didn't feel like I learned anything. Like everything that was being told to me about fame, I was like, hey, like I knew that though. So I was a little unimpressed with that, and I felt like the more interesting topic in this book was probably how the media controls the narrative of a story. It's not groundbreaking stuff, but that would have been a more interesting commentary in my opinion had we explored that. Like overall for me, the book is really interesting and really entertaining, and I felt like the main character, April May, she has like a very laid back, carefree attitude, makes jokes. Actually, if you've read Nice Try, Jane Sinner, she reminds me a lot of that narrator. Like they have a very similar voice. So if you liked Nice Try, Jane Sinner, I think you'll like An Absolutely Remarkable Thing. I liked the narrator and her voice, and I personally like those types of characters who can't take anything seriously, but it's really because, you know, they have problems on the inside. So I liked it. I did feel like the side characters, they weren't flat, they just like weren't substantially great compared to the main character, but they were okay. Like that's not going to break the story for me. One thing that I would have liked is I don't know, I think I wanted more complexity to the story, which sounds bad. Like it's actually a well done story, but I felt like thematically and even like the mystery, like it was all just very linear, and we really only felt like followed the one theme of April May getting famous and then it getting to her head, when we could have been following like 15 different threads and somehow interweave them all together and had this like complex, nuanced look at fame and media and information and all the things that I was talking about earlier. Oh, I will say one other cool thing I thought was that it's always interesting to read female characters that are written by men, because I think sometimes without realizing it, they will write in like some of their privilege into the female character, which in a weird way is actually kind of cool, just because I feel like so many female traits are like ingrained to you before you're even like able to speak, right? So you don't even realize that like you are doubting something or that you're not as confident in something as like a guy might be if they were in a similar situation as you. And sometimes it was just nice reading about April May. There were definitely times though where like, I don't know, I could just kind of tell that this isn't how most girls would react in a situation, or this isn't how most girls would be thinking in a situation. But yeah, but strangely I didn't mind it too much, because I thought in a weird way maybe it's good. I don't know, it's kind of like that whole Twitter thing where it's like people were like, you know, give me the confidence of a white man, and then they show you some stupid shit that they've done. It kind of gave me that vibe, in the sense that like, here's this girl doing this thing, not even thinking about it, when like I know most other girls would be thinking about it. The one and only book that I read and completed from start to end, maybe not like the first 2% of the book, but otherwise the first and only book that I completed during the challenge was Darius the Great Is Not Okay by Adib Khorram. Yeah, I don't even know where to start with this book. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars, but it's a truly biased opinion. So for me in particular, like the thing that I loved so much about this book was just how much Persian culture was in there, and specifically from the point of view of someone growing up in North America. So he's American, I'm like grew up in Canada, and it just like, it literally explored almost everything that at some point I had stopped and stopped and thought about, kind of growing up with your parents being Persian, but then like, you know, you're taking in the Western culture at the same time, the things that you contrast and the big differences that stand out, all of them were addressed in this book. And it was just like, it was such a walk down memory lane. I think if I had read this as a teenager, I would have, I don't even know, I mean, I assume I would have like loved it. Reading this, I was like, oh my god, I thought the same thing, or oh my god, I also would sit and wonder about how weird that is, or yeah, it was so well done. It was so well done from the point of view of capturing like what that experience is. So in a weird way, Like, I love this book because it took all these tiny experiences that I've had throughout my life. Not that I felt othered or anything, but like obviously no one cares enough for you to sit down and tell them every single way how growing up with your culture makes you like this or that or whatever, or some of the, what's the proper word for weird? Hold on. Not incongruencies. Oh my god. Oh, I forgot the word. No one cares enough to kind of hear every single way in which your culture kind of made your life a bit different than the norm here or from other, you know, ethnicities. And I feel like there are like a few ethnicities where when you say it, most North Americans will kind of have certain ideas in their head, right? And they might be wrong, but at least an idea comes to their mind. If someone says they're Japanese, like you might know a bit of Japanese culture because, I don't know, maybe you watch Terrace House, or like maybe you're a huge fan of anime. Whereas usually when I say I'm Persian, I don't think most people, like unless they're thinking about terrorist things, I don't think they know that much about it. And so I don't like usually bother to explain too much either, because like I'm like, okay, like whatever. If you don't, that's fine. But it's kind of cool to know that there's this book. And like if anybody wanted to know what my life had been like growing up, what my experience was like as a child, I could be like, you know what? Just go read this book. It will tell you most of it. It will tell you most of it, to be honest. And I think it's so cool that it can take an experience that's shared probably by tons of Persian American, Persian Canadian kids, and somehow weave it into a book for other people. That's so cool. If you want like a mini synopsis, there's this boy, Darius, and he just like doesn't feel comfortable in his own skin. His whole family is planning a trip to go to Iran to meet Darius's grandfather, who's recently diagnosed with metastatic cancer to the brain, and so like he's declining and probably not going to live for very long, so they want to like go say bye, see him for the last time kind of thing. It's just like his whole trip sort of finding himself, rediscovering his roots, and trying to bring together these like two identities that he has. I would say that this story has a lot of heart. It's really well done. There's tons of Persian culture, so if you're interested in learning about another culture, it's great. The chapters are super short, and there's a lot of geeky references in it, and it was heartwarming. There were definitely times where I teared up because a lot's going on, especially with like the sick family member. The only thing that I didn't like is that, and it's totally a preference thing, but Darius as a character is very soft for my taste. I don't personally like very delicate characters who romanticize things, and I just personally don't relate to those type of characters, and I don't like reading about them. At a similar age to Darius, I went to Iran with my family, but I actually visited one of the sites that they visit, which is Persepolis, which is where Darius, the guy he's named after, made his like throne home, and then Alexander the Great comes and burns it down. So it's like this famous place in Iran, and right now if you go, it's just ruins, but you can tell even from the size of the ruins that the place was fucking huge. And being born in Canada, I've never felt like this huge connection to like my past or like Iran or ancestors or whatever. I've always kind of just had my core family in Canada, and I don't really think I'm super Canadian, but I also don't think I'm super Persian. But I went to Persepolis in Iran, and it was just like, it was so weird. I had like the weirdest feeling, like just being there, being with the runes. It was just like this weird vibe of like recognizing that you're a part of something way bigger than yourself. You go there and you're just like, oh my god, I come from this line of people who created who knows what. Just being there and like seeing your culture and seeing all the history that you come from, it's really cool. It's a really cool experience, and it was really cool to read about him going there and having a similar experience. Yeah, it just added to that whole thing of me saying how like this book has so much of my life in it. All that to say that I think this is a really, really, really fun book. If you're my friend, you can read it, then you can come talk to me about all the cool Persian things you've learned, and I can be like, yeah. The other way that I was reading throughout this week was that I was listening to an audiobook in the mornings while I got ready and while I walked to work. So I've been reading Next Year in Havana by Chanel Clayton. I only got 28% of the way in, but that was at least a couple hours of listening, to be honest, and it's okay. It's like, if you've ever watched Dirty Dancing Havana Nights, it is that, but like a bit more of like an epic love story. It just follows two storylines of kind of more privileged women falling in love with lower social status men who happen to be rebel fighters, you know, Communist Party, not guerrilla fighters, but like, you know what I mean? Like they want the revolution to happen. They're very forward thinking, and yeah, just your like classic Dirty Dancing Havana Nights story. Like it's essentially that, but there's two parallel storylines of it happening. If you like romance, it's good. But then the other book that I started, because I wasn't really feeling this too much, The Lies of Locke Lamora, which is a book that I've been wanting to read for quite some time. Every month, every 2 months, I want to read an adult book along with all my YA books, you know, just to see what I'm missing out, and also to like diversify my reading taste. So this is my adult pick of the month/2 months, I guess. I'm only on page 18, but I just want to say it's really funny. I love it so far. I can already tell that this is going to be one that I really like. If you like assassin stories, if you like pickpockets, if you like Ocean's 11 or Ocean's 8's the all-female cast one, right? Yeah, if you like those type of like heist films or any of those kind of like assassin fantasies, I think this one, I think there's a lot of bromances that happen in this book. Hopefully they also have some strong female characters, so you know, it's not like I love it, but it's definitely a boys book. It gives me Nevernight tone vibes. It's easier to read than Nevernight because I understand the humor better, so I'm not like thinking as hard, and there's not as many footnotes, but it has a similar vibe. Just like less gore and more pulling tricks on people, so like more con artist. I'm really excited about this one, and I can't wait to read it and come back and talk to you about it. So finally, those are all my books. If you participated, I hope it went super well. Bye! I have nowhere to go, so bye!